Hello and welcome to a new episode of Painting in ASMR. This episode is of the painting of the dancerina doing things in a large room. Let's begin. And welcome to this speed painting version of the first 1 minute of our ASMR painting show of today. As we can see in this part, we can see how the painting was advanced a bit on in the last 2 days. This bit of video you're watching is not a part of what you had already seen on ASMR. This is another chapter. And we're just going to watch this very quickly develop. And then we will continue in ASMR. Here we are now. So we're going to make this painting as usual with a very small, tiny little blue brush. And we are going to go on adding white everywhere. Titanium white, of course. If you haven't been watching the development of this painting, you might want to know that the color used here as white is titanium white, not zinc white. There's even other types of white for oil, but for the most I use mainly titanium and zinc. In this case, I am using titanium. And here we go. We keep on adding on the claw of this horrible little monster, the mantis religiosa. We will keep on adding a bit of white. Down there we have made a little spot for the red, for the blue, Prussian blue, for the burnt umber. And we will keep adding these colors from our palette, which is directly added on the painting. We will keep adding it all over. There's some lemon yellow as well. And there is a little bit of Venetian yellow orange as well. A color I very much like. And here we go. We are applying a bit to the shoulder of this insect, which is sitting inside a glass box, surrounded by other characters. Mainly, it has two companions. It is sort of staring to the front and upwards. And here we are. We are now giving a bit of light to the abdomen part of this mantis religiosa, which is a bit human as well. It is the size of a human in any case, crouching. Perhaps if it stands up, it would measure between 3 and 4 meters. Let's say 3. So there we are adding some bits of oil of several colors, plus the white on the body of this central character, central to the room, painted a bit to the right, but it is still, I think, one of the most visible characters of this composition. We're adding a bit of black and brown as well to detail the little monsterino there. One of the reasons I did not use the footage you saw on the accelerated version of the speed painting version in the very beginning of this video is that I recorded that on SD, not in full HD, and I think that the look of the detail in the painting is not good enough to be featured here on the video, but now this is full HD, so I think this is a bit better lighting as well, and for sure more pixels. So now let's get a bit more of that yellow, bit of white there. Let's pick it up from the very canvas. And let's keep adding it in, detailing those gigantic claws from the mantis religiosa, which also resemble the claws of a crab. I recently watched some gruesome videos from a crab ingesting other animals, and it was pretty gruesome to watch, and that was an influence, I think, on the body of this oversized mantis that I am painting here on the right hand side of the painting, towards the center, towards the far side of the room. And let's get a bit more oil, and let's detail with white around the eyes, a bit of detail around the eyes, a bit of white there in that tiny little part. I've never much used large brushes. Sometimes I even wonder what they're for, but that's a tiny little 0/10 brush. Sometimes I use a 0, sometimes I use a 1. Recently I used a 3 for large details, and that 3 is a pretty big, a pretty small brush, I think. And so there I am. I never use solvents to thin up the oil, although that does help to make a very thin line, but I don't really like using solvents. Perhaps at some point I will. It's been coming to my mind that perhaps I should use a very thin line for black somewhere, or for brown, but for the moment I really try to stay away from those horrible solvents that smell terribly bad, and they're so strong. There's a new stuff that you probably know that doesn't smell at all, but it's still very strong stuff, and I don't really like to have that around. So I use the colors pure, just completely pure as they come from the tube, and I add them up. I mix them a bit, although the quality of the titanium white, as you know, in oil, is that the titanium white mixes less with other colors than the zinc white. If you'd like to use a white in oil painting that mixes easily with other colors and is not so strong, you might want to use the zinc white. If you want to use a very strong white that does mix with other colors, but it takes a bit more of an effort to mix them in, and it stands out immediately more as a strong color. You could even try and make a line of fresh titanium white over any other color, and it might be visible. It will definitely mix, but it will not mix immediately and instantly like the zinc white will. I've seen many other types of compositions, the chemical compositions for white. There are some brands that have a very large array of white available, but the ones that I use have the simplest tonalities of white, which are this too. So here we go. We are now painting over the head of one of the companions of the mantis religiosa. The mantis religiosa is never alone. These two companions are kind of bodyguards to the mantis religiosa, as if it needed bodyguards with its fearsome claws. In this room with mostly naked people, or people that are dressed that are naked but look dressed, kind of like the man sitting on the chair watching the woman walk by. And here I am, giving a bit more of the brushing in with the white there on the details of above and around the head of the two companions of the mantis religiosa. It's been drying for 2 days, perhaps, the painting. It had about 2 days of drying, so it's not completely dry, but it's not completely fresh either. I like to do that, a combination of letting it dry a bit and then painting a bit more. So let's say if you had a lot of color, red, blue, yellow, and then you paint over it with another color that you don't want to mix so much over the previously added colors. then you can do that. You can let the painting dry a bit, and the color will not mix like it would if all the colors were just coming fresh out of the tube. Still, it is not completely dry, so it'll mix just a bit. So sometimes that's an interesting effect to do too. That it mixes, but just a little bit, and you could add white, for example, on a part with a very heavy coloring, and it would not mix that much with all the other colors. Or if you rub it in a bit harder, then it will start scraping a bit more from the other colors and mixing just a bit. If it's completely dry when you paint the painting again, then it will not mix at all, and you will get a different effect. You can paint a line of white or any other color above all the other colors, and it'll be as if you were painting on a dry canvas. The colors will not smear at all, of course, because it's oil painting. If you did that on watercolor, as you know very well, then the color would probably rub off. And if you take a brush and you put water on it and you start scraping and painting on top of a watercolor painting drawing, then you will start dissolving off the color, and you will again make it mix and make it you will make the color run. So that's one of the big differences between oil and watercolor. The oil, once it's dry, it cannot be made wet ever again. So there we are. We are continuing with the 3 glass boxes in which these characters behind our main characters are contained. There are 3 glass boxes, one with the mantis religiosa in the middle, staring kind of to the front and up, and then the 2 companions, which are a bit more human in each side, on the right side and on the left side of the mantis, encased in glass. And next to them we have this man wearing this sort of pointy hat, pointing back there, standing as well, and from time to time he will be getting a bit of detail as well as we pass the brush right there and then over our characters, defining. And then we are defining the armpits there, thus defining the arms and the chest a bit. And we are defining the top of the woman's head. We are giving it a bit of definition too. We are changing the shape of the skull, of the man mainly, of the man watching the woman pass by. This man that is sitting on some kind of a chair without a rest for his back. And now we are shaping the head of the woman, the skull of the woman, her arm as well, adding some color, adding some light, defining a bit more, defining a bit more here and about, And we are approaching the hand, the expression on the hand of the woman as she walks by. And as she turns around to see the man who is looking at her with curiosity, and she's just walking through, perhaps going somewhere, she still has that ray of light that I drew the other day, that line of white reaching in from the right side of the painting onto her forehead. And she is there looking at the man, and here we are defining her expression, defining the way she looks at the man, adding a bit of shadow, adding a bit of light, and there it is. We're going to pick up some color down there, go back up there to define the chin, the cheeks, the cheekbones, the nose, the lips of this lady looking at the man. And here we are, outlining the shadow, the light, the volume of this woman's face, and moving the canvas a tiny bit. There we go. Just a bit of a push, just a bit of a push, just a push. It was just a bit of a push, to one side. and making it a bit more like available to be painted, because I couldn't reach that part of the scene, the right hand side of the painting as if it were. And here we are. You can't even see the brush. It looks as if though I don't have a brush as I am painting. The other day I was watching one of these videos that I've made of ASMR painting, and it was kind of strange to see my hand moving without the brush. And I wondered, there we go, now we can see the brush, just a tiny little black line on my hand. But previously, it just kind of disappears. I mean, if you look very quickly right now, it looks as if I did not have a brush in my hand, since the brush is so tiny. And I grab it rather like a pencil, not like a brush, like a stick, like some people would grab the brush. I suppose everyone grabs the brush in a different way. So, yeah, as I said, the other day I was watching one of the videos right here, like right there, we can't see the brush, and I was wondering, maybe I thought that I was painting. Maybe I was getting my hand as if I were painting the painting, but I was not actually painting the painting, and I thought that I was painting the painting, but it was all in my head. It was like a hallucination, and I made a video of me painting the painting, but I'm not really doing anything. I'm just having my hand there approaching the canvas as if I were painting. And if it's not me painting, then who is it? And that's the question that arose in my mind the first time I ever watched one of my own videos, and I thought, where is the brush? So these tiny little blue brushes that I use are actually the size of a pencil, only thinner. And I'm not comfortable painting or drawing unless I'm using a glove. Same thing happens with the Wacom pen. When I use a Wacom electronic pen, or when I draw on some other apparatus that is electronic, I wear gloves, otherwise I'm not comfortable. I suppose if you ever do this, if you ever get gloves on your hands to paint or draw, first you'll probably be uncomfortable, but later you will be uncomfortable if you're not wearing the gloves. Anyway, some of my friends wear half gloves, like the gloves where the fingers are sticking out. I made some gloves like those myself. I cut the gloves so that my fingers would stick out of the glove because I thought I would be more comfortable, but I actually need to wear the full glove, otherwise I'm not comfortable. These gloves I only wear for painting with oil. As you can see, the gloves are all stained with oil. I really like the stains on the gloves. I love the color on the gloves and how the colors kind of erode and they start crackling up on the glove. You can see the kind of blue-green on there and on the glove. On the black one, I use black and white gloves. Most of my gloves are black, but some of them are white. They're both the same. They're both cotton. And now we are adding a bit of detail on the shoe of the lady who's walking by. Just a bit, yeah, scraping off some of that red. Going to add it on the side of the man, on the things that protect our body, the rib cage, the ribs, I suppose they're called, and adding a bit of shadow there to make a bit of volume, to make it a bit of volume right there. And on each side, quite symmetrical, this little man that we have painted on. There's a bit of a symmetrical man, except for the eyes, of course. One is round and the other one's kind of like a star. But for the most, the body of this man is quite symmetrical. If we were to study the symmetry of the man, we would find that he's not that perfectly symmetrical, but that's okay. Actually, the body is not perfectly symmetrical. I suppose life is irregular. And the body of this man is also irregular. And there we go, a bit of detail, a bit of detail. The nippleinos being added, just a hint of the nippleinos, nothing too prominent, right there. And the expression, I wanted to fix that expression for a long time. I did not want him to look like he was, as if though he was smiling. I found that a bit disturbing. So I wanted his expression to be a bit more like a serious man. And we're adding a bit of shadow there on the neck, underneath the chin. We're adding a bit of shadow, yeah? Painting it down right in between those two little bones on the front, above the chest, in between the chest and the neck. I suppose they are what holds up the shoulders, part of what makes up the shoulders. And yes, the vertebrae, I suppose it's called, the bones, the rib cage, part of the rib cage on the front. I like when the rib cage portrays the ribs on the chest. Of course, very fit people do not feature that. Very fit men are very muscular and all, and they're like very, very strong people, and they don't. You can't hardly see the bones, but that's not the type of character I want to paint here. So this man is a very thin person, and his bones are showing even on his chest, in between the neck and the chest. And now I am accessing a side of the arm to paint it. How do you like that, eh? And now let's go for the insect. Yeah. This time I also decided to record the voice using a special microphone, because I think that the microphone that I used to speak while I paint is good, but I think we could hear the ambience of the room a little too wide. And I made a little experiment with this microphone, and it turned out interesting. So I think from now on I might make quite a few videos with adding the sound of the voice afterwards. Of course, there's this thing that makes it interesting as well, to have the voice directly, to a direct narration. So I might also do that while I am doing the painting. While I'm adding color to the painting. And here we are doing a bit of detail on the mouth, proboscis, I think it's called on insects, but I don't think I'm using that word correctly. On this kind of horrible fang-looking, sort of claw-looking fangs on the insect. It's a really powerful mouth that they have. You can watch them lift things that are like 5 times their size and things like that. Insects are horribly strong, very amazingly strong. And here we go, a bit of a shadow beneath the creaturino crawling in a friendly way towards the left-hand side of the painting. Gonna pick up a bit more color, just a bit more, and we'll add definition to the side of the case where one of the companions of the Mantis religiosa is. And we will add detail as well to the floor, to the wooden floor, to the planks, I think they're called, from the floor. We will use this red, black, brown, yellow for the floor, kind of a wood coloring style. We're going to define those floorboards, I think they're called. And there we go, adding a bit more, making a line there to keep adding to this floorboards. There we go, let's add a bit more, why not, a bit more, right beneath the foot, why not. Let's add some black, some darker colors. The black I am recently placing mostly on the bottom of the canvas, as to not confuse it with the dark brown, the burnt sienna, or the blue. Because sometimes if it's just a bit, they just look like dark patches down there, and I can't tell. If I had not extended the color well, And it just looks like very dark spots on it. It can easily get confusing. It's not like the yellow, like the red, like the white, like the light brown, like the Venetian yellow orange that are very, very easy to spot when you have like super dark blue, like the Prussian blue that I'm using, and black, and very dark looking burnt sienna, which actually doesn't look that dark once you apply it. Burnt sienna kind of dissolves very quickly, or maybe it's the color I'm using. It's not a very strong color, and it immediately sort of turns into shadows, and I think I do like to use it quite a bit for shadowing. I think I added a lot for contouring and shadowing things. And there we go. Let's add some detail to the floorboards behind the chair of the man looking at the woman. Let's add a bit more there, and use this opportunity to detail in a bit right there. Adding some details to the man. Let's pick up some white there, and I might even, looks like I'm going to shape up the chest of the man. No, not for the moment. It's been thinned up enough, perhaps. Let's do some more detail on the floorboards, right beneath the flower that grew in the middle of the floorboard with a skull on it. Let's get a bit more paint there and add it. And I'm adding it to the part that is in front of my body, so it's not really that visible when I add it there. There we go. Now we see the brush as it peeps out as I stretch those lines down the floorboards. Bit more of that burnt sienna, bit more of red. Let's spread it. Yeah, there we go. Detail. A bit more. Detailing those floorboards with lines there, flowing down from the zone where the mantis religiosa is. And there we go. We are going to detail a bit more. A bit more of detail underneath the woman. A bit more of detail there. And let's stretch this color underneath the white, the brown, the red. Detailing the floorboards there too. There we go, a bit of white with yellow right next to the buggy woogie. And there we go. Bit of light, a bit of a strong spot of light on that side, yeah. And let's keep adding it there, shaping those floorboards, just sort of sculpting through those floorboards, yeah. And by the way, also sculpting through the bog, through the buggy wuggy. There we go. We are now adding a bit more, spreading it through on the floorboards, right beneath the chair of the man looking at the woman. A bit of slight contemplation, and those lumps of white, we will turn them into brush strokes. We're going to stroke down that colorino, and we will do some detail too, help the shape of everything around those floorboards, the body of the woman, the legs of the woman. Let's spread on that white there, just a bit, just a tidbit, yeah, in front of the foot, beneath, right there, beneath the knee. Let's keep spreading this a bit, yeah, and let's paint those floorboards with a bit of strong light there from the titanium white. There we go. Let's keep spreading that colorino, and let's keep adding it in. Yeah, let's define the foot on the leg of the woman as we add color and light to the floorboard. Let's keep adding it in, yeah, adding it in. A bit of yellow there. Let's transform the colors a bit by mixing them. Let's do some lining on the floor. Let's make that wooden texture a bit a bit more wooden with all those lines that wooden planks have. And let's be adding here a bit of burnt umber. Burnt umber right there. We're just talking about burnt umber. Let's add it in. Why not? And now we will spread that colorino. And this video is coming to its end. In about a minute, the video will come to its conclusion. I hope you have liked the third part of the making of an oil on canvas painting of the ballerina dancing around in the center of the room. I made the canvas myself, by the way, with some materials that I put together. Sometimes I buy them, sometimes I make them. So thank you very, very much for watching. We will continue with this painting very soon. Thank you very much for watching this ASMR video.